Since we've already dealt with reggae icon Carlton Barrett in the past, it's long overdue to look at another highly influential drummer from Jamaica, Sly Dunbar. Sly Dunbar was born in Kingston, Jamaica in the early 1950s. He dropped out of school at the age of 15 and soon after gained his first experience as a drummer in multiple projects. It was in the early 1970s when he met bass player Robbie Shakespeare, who was about to be his musical companion for many years to come. Besides just being an incredible rhythm section, the two, Sly and Robbie, soon became well known as one of the most influential producer duos in the reggae scene. Their record label, Taxi Records, has seen numerous releases of some of the most important reggae artists of their time. Sly Dunbar's credit list, for example, contains names like Black Uhuru, Peter Tosh, Grace Jones, and Chaka Demus and Pliers, not to mention all the non-Jamaican artists like Bob Dylan, Joe Cocker, No Doubt, and many, many more. What's easy to guess right here is that Sly Dunbar's musical legacy reaches far beyond one single genre. He really is a reggae music ambassador who brought his roots and his musical identity far beyond the borders of Jamaica into the whole world. On this journey, he and his congenial partner Robbie more than once had their share in revolutionizing reggae music. One of the best examples for this is the Rockers groove. While the one drop was and still is the main groove for most reggae music, Sly Dunbar is often named as the father of the Rockers groove that brought more drive and a whole new feel to reggae music. If you're not familiar with these terms and the different grooves, make sure to check out our reggae drumming basics lesson with Chris Hoffman. Another very important factor when talking about Sly and Robbie's impact is the implementation of electronic sounds very early on. For this video, however, we will stick to Dunbar's acoustic drum sound and check out how he prepared the kit for his signature snare and tom sounds. Before we get into the kit we picked, here's the song we want to look at first, Sinsemilla by Black Uhuru. A very dead drum sound, right? Well, that's because of quite some muffling, but we'll get back to that later on. The song is from 1980 and a perfect example for Dunbar's famous Rockers groove. When we were going through some photos of Sly's setups, we realized that he had quite a few different setups throughout the years, but the most iconic and most recognizable is the one we chose to recreate: kick, snare, 4 rack toms, a timbale, and bongos. Looks pretty weird, right? But it suits the music perfectly. To achieve the right vintage vibe, we decided to go with our Pearl President Deluxe kit. The 22 by 14 inch kick is the first drum we dealt with. The drum head we picked is a clear Remo controlled sound. The black dot not only looks pretty nice for a recreation of this era, but the single ply construction with the CS dot in the center also has the perfect characteristics to match Sly Dunbar's sound. The tuning is pretty low, with even a few wrinkles left, but the most crucial part is that there is no reso head involved and that there's quite a lot of muffling inside the drum shell. In our case, it's 2 blankets placed against the batter head. For a pretty short and crisp kick drum sound, we chose a boundary mic over a dynamic kick drum mic that might have produced more low end and different mid frequencies that we don't need here. It's a TGD71. Listen to what this sounds like. The snare drum is a pearl Sensitone aluminum 14 by 6.5. This drum mimics the Ludwig Superphonic Sly Dunbar used to play back in the day. If you're not familiar with this famous drum by Ludwig, it's one of the most recorded drums ever. And just dive into that rabbit hole for a second and Google this drum. So many greats used it back in the day. Now back to the topic. The drum head we picked is a pinstripe clear. That's a double ply head with an overtone reducing agent between the plies that gives this drum head its unique sound. When going through some old photos, Pascal found a pretty unique way Sly used to muffle his toms and snare, and that's exactly what we wanted to try ourselves. So before installing the drum head, Pascal placed some tape in an X shape underneath the batter head. This really deadens the sound and is very suitable for this kind of music. But remember, muffling from the inside this way means there is no way to quickly remove the muffling while playing. So make this decision wisely. To get even closer to Sly's snare sound, Pascal also realized that Dunbar used to put some tape on the snare wires as well. This makes the buzz shorter and more controlled, so here's what he did. Since there's so much muffling going on, the tension of the drumhead has to be pretty high, even though the tone in the end isn't that high at all. So here's the final tuning. And with an MC930 small diaphragm condenser on top and an M201 as bottom mic, this is what it sounds like. Now the last but pretty important part of this kit are the toms. 4 toms, all rack toms to be precise. Since we do not have a 10-inch tom for our President Deluxe kit, we borrowed one from our masters and treated it the same way as the 12, 13, and 14-inch toms. We removed the reso heads, installed some pinstripe clear heads with the same Sly Dunbar signature muffling as the snare on top, and used the internal dampening system for some additional muffling. Since the 10-inch tom has no internal muffler, we added an external one. The toms are tuned in quite a wide range, so the high tom is pretty high, the low one is pretty low, and the other two just sit somewhere in between to complement each other nicely. The miking here is 4 M88s placed inside the shells from underneath, and this is what it sounds like. Now the only missing pieces are the cymbals, and in this case there are only 3 involved: 14-inch Avidus hats, an 18-inch Avidus crash, and an 18-inch A thin crash. The overheads are 2 MC930s, and the hi-hat is captured with the same microphone. Yes, the percussion instruments are still missing, but before we get into those, let's listen to an excerpt of Pascal's drum cover for Sinsemilla. Black Uhuru is just one of the famous reggae artists Sly Dunbar worked with back in the 80s. Another one that's very important to mention is Peter Tosh. Sly and Robbie were his rhythm duo live and in the studio for quite some time, and the song we want to look at now is called Bush Doctor.
Warning. The Surgeon General warns. Cigarette smoking is dangerous. Dangerous. Hazard to your health. Does that mean anything to you? legalize marijuana. Right here in Jamaica, yeah. Them say it cure glaucoma, yeah.
A pretty straightforward groove with some really nice fills. In this performance, you'll really get to know the toms and their unique sound. But before we get into the playing part, we need to talk about the percussion instruments needed for the intro fill. 2 bongos and a timbale. There are plenty of photos that show Sly placing a timbale where you'd expect a floor tom and the bongos just above that. Having the timbale that close to him really shows the importance of this single drum. We picked a 13-inch LP drum set timbale, and the tuning is lower than you might expect from an instrument like this. The bongos are Havana Café bongos, also by LP. The mics used here are an M420 for the timbale. Yes, it's really called 420. And an M69 for the bongos. Now the only thing left to do is adjust the snare tuning. And here's Pascal's performance of Peter Tosh's classic.
Warning. The Surgeon General warns. Cigarette smoking is dangerous. Dangerous. Hazard to your head. Does that mean anything to you? Them legalize marijuana. Right here in Jamaica, yeah. Them say it cure glaucoma, yeah. I'm the bush doctor, yeah. So there'll be no more smoking and feeling tense. When I see them come, I don't have to jump no fence.
Now usually we stick with 2 songs, but for this one, let's just throw in a little bonus performance without too much talking in advance. Besides working with Jamaican artists we've already mentioned, there are many artists from all over the world that trusted Sly and Robbie with producing their tracks or laying down some great grooves for their music. A great example for that is Bob Dylan and his album Infidels, produced by none other than Mark Knopfler. Dylan decided to bring in Sly and Robbie as the rhythm section, and the result is amazing. Take the time and listen to this record. We'll skip the original for now and go straight to Pascal's cover. The snare tuning had to be adjusted once again. But other than that, we're ready to roll. Here's Jokerman by Bob Dylan.
Standing on the water, casting your bread, while the eyes of the idol with the iron head are glowing. Distant ships sailing into the mist. You were born with a snake in both of your fists, while a hurricane was blowing. Freedom, just around the corner for you. But with truth so far off, what good will it do? Jokerman danced to the nightingale tune. Bird fly high by the light of the moon. Oh, 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 Jokerman. So swiftly the sun sets in the sky. You rise up and say goodbye to no one.
Once again, we'll upload those drum sounds as a sample pack at shop.artofdrumming.com, and you'll be able to use those for your own project. If you want to help us sustain our work, there's also a donation link in the description, and we're super thankful for every small amount that helps to keep us going. Now, which one of those 3 sounds did you like the most? Which Sly and Robbie tune is your favorite? Let us know in the comments, and keep the groove going till we meet again for the next Recreating Iconic Drum Sounds episode.